a little contest for this video. This year, I was invited by Abragames to do a talk at Gamescom Latam. They built a new stage called Connect, if I'm remembering correctly. But a lot of people couldn't see my talk, either because it was too early at the day. Uh, Also, there was a thing that this stage wasn't recorded, as far as I know. I don't think I remember seeing a transmission online because some stages got streamed on YouTube, as far as I know. So I decided to record this video talking the things I said, and also it's important to note that my talk was in Portuguese. So this is the first time I'm presenting everything I said in English, with a little bit of additional content. You see what I mean. And I really hope you enjoy it. I really hope this is interesting to you, even if you're not working on a reader game. And I really hope also being understandable because it's my first time speaking all this content in Portuguese or in English. Sorry, because I did the speech in Portuguese. So I hope it's insightful either way. And well, let's go to the video. The reason I wanted to give a talk like this about reading games at Gamescom Latam was because all the time when I talked with other game developers that I was making a reading game, all the time they would ask, "Oh, so it's hard, isn't it?" And at first I would think, "No, it's not that hard." But then I would think about all the things, the details that takes to do a good reading game, and all the feedback I've got throughout the years that I think isn't like I'm the perfect game reading games developer, but there are a lot of things that I noticed about my work and other people's work that I try to use to improve my work with reading games. So this is all to say that it's not a trust me, bro, um, speak here. It's a trust me, bro, but based on my experience both as a player and also as a developer. So, for those who don't know, hi, I'm Kadu. Um, I'm a computer scientist. I graduated. I have a bachelor degree in computer science. I'm mostly a game designer, programmer, and music producer for games. I used to be an influencer for a reading game, but let's not talk about it. Like the Madrigal family doesn't talk about Bruno. And I thought it would be a good idea to open a game studio. And would you may be asking why you thought it would be a good idea? This is my team. Yeah, I do everything by myself. That's why I said I'm mostly a game designer, I'm mostly a programmer, I'm mostly a music producer, but in the daily life, I do everything and far in between. And those are some of the titles I've been working on. Some you don't even know because I'm working in secret. And those two games, Eden Paradise, Anima Circus, are both reading games that are on Steam. So I wanted to bring my perspective working on those games, and also as a player and someone who really enjoy reading games, to help those who want to make reading games or are just interested about. So let's start defining reading games, that I think is something that is important. So usually the definition would see in most websites or like Wikipedia, would be something like this: game that challenges the player's ability to stay in rhythm, like in sync with the rhythm. But I decided to think how I would define rhythm games in my way. First, because the it's my speech, yes, obviously, but also because there is something else that I think this definition doesn't cover. That is, so my definition is game that challenges the player's ability to coordinate their actions with the timing of different elements within a song, usually coinciding with its pulse. So why I said this? Because a lot of the times when you talk about reading, we only focus on the pulse, we only focus on the drums. But a music like can have elements that they are not always in sync with the drums. They are actually in rhythm, of course, but they maybe you're singing a part that is between the drums, or you have to adjust where between two beats you need to sing. So I think this is my way to say, don't only pay attention to the drums, also see the other elements, the moment they play in the music, because I think this is as important as it is to follow the drums, of course. um, Also, I see a lot of times people using rhythm games and musical games that are as similar terms, but I think it's important to explain the distinction of them, because in a rhythm game we talk about mechanics. We talk about the mechanics are being built over the musical elements. You need to be in sync with the music. But a musical game has maybe the OST is really important, the soundtrack is really important, but doesn't mean that um, the songs interfere in the gameplay. So what do I mean? So there are musical games that they aren't rhythm games. So Songs for a Hero, that is a Brazilian game, a really good game. I haven't finished it, but really play it. Tactus Effect, Stray Gods, they are rhythm. They are sorry, they aren't rhythm games. They are musical games because music is really important for to experience them, but they aren't built on you following the rhythm. So now let me show a taxonomy. I have this thing since I finished college, that I learned that I had to do a taxonomy to analyze different games. Long story short, because it was part of my final project. So I have this thing of trying to analyze things and compare and create definitions, and I really suggest you to do the same, because I think it's interesting. It's a good homework to for us to understand and be able to classify and group certain games that we feel are similar, as long as we understand why we are grouping them, and like making it in a group place. But also, I like understand that this taxonomy isn't a final taxonomy. Like, of course, you can create your own if you feel like it, and I really hope it helps with benchmarking, or even when searching for other inspirations for your games. So of course, I'm going to focus on what I call direct rhythm games. There are games where the gameplay is based on following the rhythm of the song that is playing, and this is a summary of what I'll be talking about here in this taxonomy. So, direct reader games that are followers based reader games, it basically means that you need to do something at a certain time. So in I don't know, the text 10 seconds of a song, there is this thing that happens, so you need to do this, the thing the thing is in sync of the thing that happens. So I think it's what most people think on reader games when they think about reader games. So you can be based when we talk about contextualization, when you think about presenting the things that are going to be presented. You can It can be based on notes, so it means that the way I'm going to present the things that the player has to do will be like basically direct, like to the commands they have to do, or how they need to do things. So uh, we talk about presenting buttons, presenting the elements they need to touch on the screen, or use the mouse to click, or maybe where they need to the way they need to do some gestures. So it's really specific. It's really like we show this, the player has to do this. You know. So we talk about Guitar Hero, Rock Band, Dance Revolution, Pop It Up. Uh, Also that you usually use the mouse or digital table. I think that's how we call. No, I think it's a digital tablet. Sorry. Projectiva as well. Rehave that usually uses a touch screen. Also, VR games like Beat Saber that is showing you cubes you need to slice in a specific direction. So it's showing you what you have to do. Also Algica, that I don't know if it's available, but it's a shooter rhythm game, so it's showing the direction you need to shoot. Also, Samba de Amigo that you're using a sensor, but it's showing the direction you need to hit the like direct your arms towards. Also, Fantasia that is a rhythm game that I think very few people know because it was for the Kinect, but it was I think a niche game, and basically you're conducting a song, but the way that the game presents it is going to show arrows that represent the direction you need to move your arms. So it's still like you're making gestures with the Kinect, in front of the Kinect to be more precise, but the game presents the direction of the thing you need to do. So it's really straightforward. With based in action followers games, we're talking about conceptualizing something in the game's universe in a way that you're not thinking just about pressing a button. You think about doing that action specifically or doing something that will be equivalent to that action. So what do I mean? Rhythm Heaven, for example, like you have these mini games where you're presented with something that happens. So you're not thinking about, oh, I need to press button this. I'm thinking about I need to feed the animal at the right moment. I need to kick the ball, else I'll hit some animals. You know, you have these contextualizations of the things that you're going to do. Rhythm Hell, that is this um, animal basically that needs to clap following reading the sheet music. So you have you're not presenting like, oh, need to press the button. Actually, you need to clap your hands in sync what you're supposed to do. Rhythm Mania is a Brazilian game that follows the Rhythm Heaven format. So most games that kind of try to be rhythm heaven-ish, so they would fit in and based in actions classification, as well as dancing games that presents you a coach that you need to follow, like Just Dance, Dance Central, Everybody Dance, because you're not saying to the player, okay, you need to now move your controller or need to do like in this direction. You're not saying like you actually presenting the player the dance, and they wasn't supposed to think on the controllers on the game capture. They was supposed just to dance, as long as the scoring isn't buggy, you know. But the whole point is to present something that the contextualization is more abstract, isn't as straightforward as based in buttons, like based in actually sorry, based in notes game. So the improvisers, those are interesting because they may be hard to understand if you hear about them in a vacuum, but the moment you start playing them, they make sense. And the idea is for improviser games is that you don't have a specific time to do the actions. You don't have a specific timing. You need to follow the rhythm, but it's more like okay, every time that you have the beat of the song, so have as long as you press the button, as you do an action following those beats, you're safe. You can do that action basically. So um, basically the rhythm rhythmic actions. Sorry, English isn't my first language. I don't know if you didn't notice that, but rhythmic actions means that you need to do an action in a specific time, like need to follow the rhythm of the song to be able to do the action. So in a game like Inside My Radio is a platformer game, a lot of some things like you can move freely, but some specific commands you only can do then if you successfully is following the rhythm of the the beat of the song. So, for example, you can dash, but the dash, if I'm remembering correctly, you only can dash if you're following the beat. So, if the beat is going like this, pam, 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 if you press along with the pam, you can dash. Else, it's not you're not dashing. Uh, uh, Also, with the rhythmic boosts, usually you have some action, but you can get bonus points if you're following the rhythm of the song. So, with Child of Eden, it's a shooter game that is really psychedelic, and I'm going to talk about it briefly later. But if you're following the rhythm, and there is also some other variables, but if you're following the rhythm of the song and trying to shoot along with the song's rhythm, you get more points than just shooting at random. So basically, though this was my taxonomy, of course, understand that it's more like a suggestion of mine or analysis I did. But if you find like you found a better way to classify different video games, be my guest and find a way to classify in a way that makes sense for you. And so, okay, now I'm not necessarily, we would not necessarily say that those are reader games, but they are indirect reader games. They are accidental reader games. And I think it's more a way to think on that understanding reader games is can make a difference when working with other genres, working with other types of games, and you understand why. So I'm defining indirect reading games as games where you have a specific time to do an action, but those actions aren't related or directly related to a musical element. So basically, quick time events, as long as you have a consequence for making following them correctly or not. So if you think about it, like suddenly you have this button that you need to press, or this action that you need to do, and if you don't do it at that specific time, maybe you failed or there is a consequence. So you're not relating those rhythms to a song, but you have a rhythm to follow basically. Uh, Maybe if you would think like I'm forcing it, but Alan Wake, I tried playing Alan Wake. It was a scary experience to me. I'm not a scary game person, but I played it, and there is those generators that you need to turn on sometimes, and in order to turn on, there is this wheel that appears, and there is this arrow that is following the circle, and you need to press only when the arrow the circle is hitting this the green part, and have to do this 3 times. Basically, you need to follow a rhythm to be able to turn on the generator. So it's not like I'm forcing. Oh, it's a reader game, but it's more like uh, the more we understand reader games, the more, especially if we want to do like um, maybe a quick time events in a game, if we want to use those artifacts, so think on ways to use commands. Like I think it's a good way to understand the video game is a good way to improve those games, those areas, and this is a small provocation that I decided to put. Like it's not, it doesn't have a perfect answer, it's just like more for us to think about them. So if I have a fighting game where players have a specific time window to press each button in order to form a combo, does it make it the game a non-musical video game, accidental video game? Like again, there is not a perfect answer. It's more a way to reflect on what I presented here. So put in the comments what you think. If it's yes, no, your reasonings for that. So because I think it's important for us to do those reflections on the genres we are working with, and to understand them better, and also to understand how we think about those genres. So okay, now this is the part that the programmers and the game designers were waiting for, how it usually works, or at least how I work on them. So there is, first of all, some terms that are going to define here. So usually I call timer a variable that I use to say where I am at the song, like, oh, I'm in the 10 seconds mark, I'm the this moment of the song. So usually I use a variable that I may call it a timer or something similar to this, but the variable is sort of a timer. I'll have a hit window that will be an interval, a period of time that will be acceptable for the player to hit. That if the player does the action I want at that specific time window, they're okay. And a map or chart is usually how I see most people referring to the programming you do to a specific song to a game. So usually what we will do, we'll have a list of times that usually they are uh, stored in a file, in a text file. And so you get those times and you make a list. So you point to that specific moment on the list. Say, okay, so the first moment is 10 seconds mark of a song. So I'll see like, okay, I'm at this 10 seconds mark and have the player hit the button that I want them to hit. Oh, they did. Okay, so I'm going to give them points. Else, if they missed the mark, if the time passed and they didn't press the button, the correct button, okay, I'm going to count it as a mistake. Uh, maybe I'll make the combo variable, like I'll zero it, maybe I'll reset it. I'll find a logic to do, like depends on how I want to do. I can even like verify if the player is pressing a button that they wasn't supposed to press at a specific moment, and see if I'm going to penalize the player or not. But again, this is how it depends on how you're going to do the designing of it. But basically, you're going to verify each position of the list until the list is full. Unless until you finish the list. For improviser games, usually you're going to you can verify only when the player press that button, and you see if the you of course you need to get the interval between each beat. So for each beat you have like a difference of, I don't know, half a second. So if the player is pressed in, like you get the module of the division, and you see if the rest of the division is closer to zeros, closer like to this interval. Oh, is it? Okay, so I'm going to give them points, or I'm going to they are allowed to do a specific action. So it really depends on the game designing you're doing. So usually the timer variable is used in seconds, and you need to use a float for it, because if you're not using, like you ignoring the float part, you miss a lot of information that is important to guarantee that you're in sync with the song. So usually you're going to use two decimal places minimum, but I recommend using three or more, like three, four, like more than five. That is exaggeration, but like I think two, like is three would be the ideal case of decimal places for you to put to write the position of the song, along with of course the seconds and not the rest of the information. And I talk about the hit window, and the hit window is important because if we think on how we usually work with games, like you have some of the processing of the games are made between frames, and usually we talk about targeting 60 frames per second, right? So if I'm expecting the player to hit that specific frame, like one of the 60, only one of the 60 frames in a second, I would be expecting the players to have a really high precision rate, and I think I won't say that it's impossible, but I think it would be really hard for the players to be that precise. So hit windows are a way to guarantee that the player has at least a time stamp, a time specific time that they can guarantee that they at least if they're closer to the window, they they are good, and we are guaranteeing that the game feels fair for most players. And of course, I can adjust the time window. Basically, I can make it larger, um, maybe it's smaller. I can also see the moment that the player hit the time compared to the time window, if it's closer to the center or to the margin of this time window to make the calculation of the scoring. I can think of math functions, or maybe I'll decide specific values based on how close the player was to the center of the hit window. Also, I can think on asymmetric windows, so maybe I'll make um, the point before larger than the point after, or vice versa, because it depends on the type of behavior you want to reinforce to the player. Also, last tip, I talk about reading text files, but I really recommend learning JSON, because you have a more structured format, and you can customize, especially if you have a more complex information to put in the file. So you can better adjust, based on your needs, and avoid at least the some writing mistakes. Like maybe you put a dot instead of like you put a comma instead of a dot, or maybe you typed something else. You maybe typed a letter instead of a number. So usually in most text files that reads JSON, you're going to be able to see if everything works or not. So okay, so there are some important aspects, and now I think the UI UX people will be interested about that, as well as the game designers. So okay, let's start with the development. So anticipation is important for us to remember that players will play a map for the first time at some point, so they won't know what's coming from, so what's coming next. So you need to think in a ways how the player can anticipate what's happening. So we talk about position, maybe thinking about visual effects, maybe thinking about pictograms, especially with video games. Video games usually have some sort of pictogram or flashcard system, and position can be like something like Guitar Hero and Rock Band does. Like it shows the note slowly approaching you, so you can have a time to process. Okay, this is coming eventually. The punch. So you don't want to say the player got things right. You really want to put an emphasis that they got things right, and it makes a really huge difference when the players are rewarded immediately when they got things right, like, or they when they got really right. So it's about really making this dazzling effect, but really sure that pizzazz when they make it right and they feel good about it. So maybe it's putting particles, making some scenery modifications, maybe special animations or sound effects, but with caution, and you understand why. And in a game like this Central, um, below the coach, the dancer, it shows a circle that is filled as long as you making the movement correctly. And for the best movements that you can do, it shows these diamonds to say that you were flawless. And it also shows like some green batteries to show that you were good. But the flawless is the final pizzazz. And along with the pizzazz, the punch, it also shows this thing that depending on how many moves you're doing correctly, it changes the environment. So you go from a more mundane, common place venue to then suddenly you have these neon lights and different lighting happening. And also can think about applying the punch to peripherals, and to see what you can do with different with with the resources those peripherals have. And when I'm talking about peripherals, I'm talking about controllers, but also if there's something else that you're using for your game, maybe your game requires using a camera, maybe your game requires using a sensor, and so you can think on ways that you can use those to reinforce the player doing good. Also, synesthesia. This is really important, and I think this is what makes a huge difference in a game. That there is the neuro condition and neuro condition, not synesthesia, that the brain mixes different senses. But for games, we usually talk about mixing senses like vision and audio being in sync. You can also think about touch, like if your controller has some a rumble system, you can think about that also. But it's important to also put a turn off option because some people don't like rumble options. Maybe you can think about smell and taste. I don't know how you would do that. I think I've heard about Sony having a patent for smell. So maybe who knows in the future that you can sync all those four. But but I think at least visuals and sound should be in sync to make this really immersive experience. And Child of Eden for me is a class on how to do this. So if you don't know this game, search for some gameplay on YouTube because it's a really impressive. It's really interesting, and it was really cool to see the different elements happening in sync with the songs. But that's the thing. Okay, and also it's important to remember that you want to put as many elements in sync, but you also don't want to make the trigger some epilepsy to the player. So it's important to see ways you can do it without, I don't know, um, maybe showing different colors and different patterns of colors, like out of the sun, or having ways to adjust how much you change in the lighting on a scene. And okay, that's the moment that the thing that complicates not only the synesthesia but also video games in general, the latency, because you always have this time delay between um, an input you put in for your computer or on a console, and also have a time of delay of what is has been processed until it gets to your TV screen, until it gets to your monitor, until it gets to your phone or to the speakers that you're using. And latency, it can also differs, like the visual latency can be different from the audio latency. And it really like makes it harder for us to guarantee that what the player is seeing and listening is what happening has been happening at the same time in the computer. There may be a delay in it, and also we need to remember that Bluetooth makes it even worse. So if you use Bluetooth audio earbuds, or like there is a higher delay than using things with cords, wired stuff. So of course, what you can do to at least to counterbalance it is to think on delaying some of the processing you're doing. Think on that delay that the player will have, and you can think on each kind of uh, latency that the player may face, but you can also like thinking about visual latency and audio latency as one its own thing, and thinking about since the moment the player will press something, and until it gets to the player's visuals, and the same with the audio. So it's a way for you to kind of balance and understand that there will be a delay, but you also not punish the player for not having control of that delay. And a game like Rhythm Sprout has some options for you to balance the latency and compensate the notes, and do some adjustments that you can do manually. But also there is some a tool that each calculates the latency, and you uh, calibrate the visuals and then the audios to make sure you have a good experience, and it's going to compensate for the delays the game finds. Uh, Also, it's important for to talk about copyright because I think maybe depending on the country, you may know more or less about it, but it's important for us to be aware of the material that we are putting in a game. Also, because we no one wants to be sued, I guess, and especially when it comes to using music by third parties, by other artists, by other people, because sometimes people may think that because I don't know, you bought a CD, you bought the song on iTunes, I don't know. Are you allowed to use that song in the any way possible, but not? You actually only get a license to listen to the song. So if you want to actually use it in a commercial matter, then you have to get the authorization with the one who owns the song. So usually we talk about either talk about with record labels or in case of more independent artists, maybe talk directly to them if they can allow you to use their song. Maybe there is a fee related to it, or maybe just written contract is enough. But it's important to have a written agreement, so just in case. And also, it's good to have a lawyer if you can. But Kadu, I'm making my own songs. Great. Still, you need to know about copyright laws and understand that the copyright laws they differ based on each country. There may be some international agreements, but it also can vary from region to region. But I think it's important for you to search about how you get international certificates like the ISWC and ISRC because those are international numbers that are important because they register the ISWC are about your composition, and the ISRC is about the record, like the one that you put on streaming services. So you knowing how to register those two licenses, I think is are the most important, maybe. You know, and also, it's important to have a lawyer if possible. If you can't afford it, if you don't, then search about copyright laws, especially in your region, how you can protect your intellectual properties. Just in case. Now, let me talk a little bit about music theory because I think it's important for us to understand how we can implement synesthesia better in our games. So, I think it's important I need to talk about pulse. That basically pulse is my music teacher liked to say that is basically the gravity of a song. So, sorry, even if a song doesn't have a beat, usually if you have rhythm, of course, but if you feel like even if the song doesn't have a beat or the beat is omitted at that part, you feel like you can like your head moves in a certain way, or you're clapping because there is this pulse happening. There is this vibration. There is this almost like this gravity force pushing when the song like needs to be pushed. Bam, bam, bam. That would be the pulse. You know. Um, Also, you have this number that is really important for songs called BPM, beats per minute. This is a measure that we need to a measure unit that it counts how many beats there are in a minute of a song. So, but because calculating with that number, you can calculate the interval between beats. So that means that I know that for each moment, like for those how many seconds a beat will happen, and then the same, and then you can calculate and program your game to uh, repeat animation or to do something in sync. You can like speed up or slow down your animation to be in sync with those BPMs. So it's a really important number. And also, I think it's important to talk about measure in time signature because most songs are in 4x4 time signature. So it means that I'll have a strong pulse, a strong beat, pa, and the other three will be weaker. So will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. one, two, three, four. And it's important to be mindful of that because understanding this, how the measure happens, like this uh, points like of start and end of a micro interval of a song, because we can understand in different ways we can play with the elements and the beats of a song to better enhance the our scenery of the elements that appear on screen. But there's an issue. There are exceptions. Sometimes there's songs that they are not 4x4. They have different time signatures. There will be songs that will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like you have a stronger beat and then a different measure of beats. Like it won't be a song beat each for beats, or sometimes the songs will get faster or slower, or maybe the rhythm will break. Like if you heard Hey Ya, like suddenly like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, like suddenly the beats break. They don't they reset to the stronger beats suddenly. So okay, I know that there is the BPM, but how do I do? Like I imagine all the songs will be fixed, or all the songs may change BPM. I try to think um, on unusual time signatures, or I assume everything is 4x4. Like now, then is up to you. And what do I mean by that? I mean like think on what makes sense to your game. If you prefer to limit the songs you're put in the game, or if you prefer to have a more a easier solution, like not an easier solution, sorry, but more like a broader solution that can be adjusted to each song. Like it really depends on also your how comfortable you feel with programming, or how much programming you want to do for each song. Because I think understanding this and understanding the limitations that you're putting on your own code is important to be mindful, and also to avoid surprises and not good surprises that you want in your development, especially if you're using songs by other artists. So I think it's important to be mindful about that, to better implement, of course, synesthesia, but also avoid surprises, or realize that a song is not working with the code you made, because maybe the BPM changes, or maybe there is something that you didn't count for. So, okay, so there is this part now that I will talk about briefly about some specific aspects that I think is important to highlight. Okay, let me start with dynamism. Dynamism is dynamic. So, uh, it's important to think about doing your map, your chart dynamic, because you don't want everything to stay the same. A roller coaster is fun because it has highs and lows. It's not because everything is high all the time, or everything is intense, or everything is low intensity. You want to vary, even in if you want to make some chart with a higher or lower difficulty. Still, you want to vary things from time to time. Repetition. I think it's important also to understand the song's structure to better use it in your favor. And also, we as humans, we like to find patterns. We like to recognize patterns. So, especially for people who already know a song, if they're playing, or they've been paying attention to notice the patterns, it's cool to kind of compensate them for realizing those repetitions. And also you can play with those repetitions as well, like especially if you're making harder difficulties, you can think on how you can play with those repetitions, or maybe break the expectation. The thing is just not to feel like it's everything is random. Also theming imbalance, because I think everyone likes the idea of making a game that feels cohesive. The same with an album. Like we like to hear albums that they seem like everything makes sense, but at the same time, we want to show variety to the player. It will you a bad would be a bad experience to the players if they feel like every level is more of the same. They don't feel like each level is different, especially if you put in songs that they if you feel like players are thinking that two songs are too similar to each other. It's a good practice to imagine how you can use them in different ways that they like those will be so different they can't ignore that those actually end up being different maps. Modifiers is a good way to make the player want to play a song more and more, like more times, and we can kind of expand the time the player spends in the game, but without having to program a lot of new stuff, because you basically making modifiers like ways to play a song that can be applied to all or at least most of the maps. So you can like speed up or slow down a map. You can like have a modifier that hides the anticipation, so the player kind of play it blind, blindfold, blind, so you can think on ways that you can implement different forms to experiment with level, to experience a level. Also, level editor, because uh, programming a level by hand takes time. It can be tedious. You may make mistakes when typing the values. So making a level editor or finding one that works for you is good, because you have this uh, visual interface that you can program everything, and you don't need to worry about making mistakes or typing anything wrong. The thing is, of course, it's important for you to find one that suits your programming, or you can do the opposite, like find a level editor that works for you, and then make sure the coding that you're doing fits the code that the level editor supports. You can do also your own if you feel like you already have the experience. Like, it takes a little time, it can be tedious, but it's a huge benefit to be able to program things using a digital interface. Accessibility, I think, is something that we as developers we need to be mindful of. I think is important, and of course, not necessarily will make the make it perfectly, and especially for teams with a small team or little to no budget. I know how it's like. I've been there, but I think the more we are aware of how we can implement accessibility, the more you make a better experience, not only for those who have a disability, but also those without. Usually, the more we think about accessibility, we can also improve the experience for everyone. And music theory, like some people maybe asking, okay, do I need to know a lot about music theory to make good reader games? And I would say, like, you don't need to know everything, but I highly suggest searching about rhythm, about pulse, knowing the basics of about rhythm, because I think the more we understand about rhythm, maybe about um, a pitch, I think that is a little bit important, but mostly written is important for you to have a good experience and to provide a good experience to your player, especially on Synesthesia. Then there's a part that I couldn't talk on the speech, so on my talk, so this is a bonus. So you actually see the standard version, the director's cut, the Kadu's cut. So okay, let's talk about the public. So I think it's important for us to make those questions. I know it's something that may be nerve-wracking at first, but it's important for us to think about the public. Like, are we thinking about people who knows the genre, or maybe people that are new to it? We talk about people who are good, they master the reader games, or people who are really bad at it or haven't tried games like video games, or they like video games but they are not good at it, they just like because they like the songs. We talk about making games for like thinking on the challenge, or more for people so they can vibe with the songs. And I say this because you won't please everyone, and that's okay. Like, I think we have a harder the time trying to do something that we think we will be universally acclaimed, then we understand the public we want to focus, and then maybe a secondary public that may be interested. But understanding those the your main focus and maybe the ones that you may attract is important for even to balance the game when also deciding the difficulty, how you're going to balance it, because maybe for games that you targeting hardcore players, a easier level has to be like maybe harder for even for those who are who aren't accustomed to reading games, or the inverse. Maybe you're focusing on people who don't know reading games, or they don't have written, like that guy from Freedom Verb, and you need to so make sure that even the hardest difficulties are accessible for those. So I think it's really about balance, about understanding who you're targeting with, and also what your game needs, especially. And so basically that's it. I really hope you enjoyed hearing me talk for those many minutes that I didn't focus on trying to follow the 30 minutes mark. I really tried to speak the best I could. And also, it was my first time doing this talk in English. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope everything made sense. You can also get in touch if you need, if you have a question, if you have a suggestion, if you have something you need to share with me. But also, I have something to, of course, a post credits section, because maybe some of you may be asking, okay, Kadu, do you have, or do you know at least, a project that maybe is a template project for people who want to make a reading game, but they can use this template so they don't need to do everything by scratch, especially if it is in Godot. Maybe do you know a project like this? Well, I don't know a project like this, but I made one. So GitHub is available. You can download it and find it on GitHub, and you can use it for your games. And it's only on IMIT license, so you just need to credit the studio, but you can use it for your games, and like see how you can implement a reader game and use it as a base for your own. And I really hope this tool is useful to you. There it has a level editor as well. Like it took me a while to make it, but I made it. And probably I'll have make some videos explaining how to modify it, how to use the ins and outs. So be aware of that. I also need to work on the documentation anyway. So I really hope this video and this talk was insightful for you, even if you're not intending to make a video game. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed. And well, don't forget to be you. Bye.